What is going on, everybody? It's the Reformation Keegan, and I'm here today to do another mini comic analysis. So, today we're looking at something new, but also something kind of similar. And what I mean by that is that we're talking about Batman again. But we are looking at Batman from a different point of view because we have Batman the White Knight. So, this is a Batman story that doesn't solely predicate itself off of just Batman because this time we're really looking at a story revolving around the Joker. So the Joker obviously is a really strong candidate for most dynamic character in comics history because the Joker represents ambiguity to its finest when you're looking at characterization. And I think Sean Murphy does a really excellent job at showing it in White Knight because what Sean Murphy does in The White Knight is he gives you a different point of view. And it's not just from Bruce Wayne's point of view, it's from the Joker's point of view. So Jack Napier, who we find out is the Joker in this, has to basically go back to who he is prior to being the Joker. So we have a theme of simultaneity with the Joker because Jack Napier wants to do better. He wants to do good. He wants to be an advocate for Gotham. Heck, he even wants to run Gotham in many ways. But the Joker still seeps through. And one of the other things that we see in the White Knight is Bruce's deteriorating mental health. So like if we go back, I don't know if I can find the page off the top of my head, but we see how when you make things personal with Bruce, the proverbial lace becomes untied. Because when you make things personal with Bruce, he gets very emotional. And usually when Bruce is educating someone like Dick Grayson, aka Robin, on crime fighting, he always tells him you can't make things personal and you have to deal with things more diplomatically. But someone like the Joker knows how to make things personal with Bruce, so Bruce's emotions will get the best of him, and he'll commit something that he regrets. So we have obviously beautiful imagery here, but you can see that the Joker's gonna make it even more personal going forward, and Bruce ends up beating Jack Napier senseless, but even though he's still a Joker at this time, and we end up getting a really cool image where we see pills going down the Joker's throat, and what happens is these pills that are actually they're created essentially by Harleen Quinzel, aka Harley Quinn. They make the Joker more normalized. So we get the juxtaposition through a paradox between the Dark Knight and the White Knight. So the Joker is trying to become the White Knight. Jack Napier himself is trying to become the White Knight. And what the story really is it's a battle between mental health, both for Bruce and both for Jack. And you can see how the Joker has a dual identity disorder in this because Jack still sometimes acts like the Joker. However, you want to see as a fan and as a reader if the Joker is going to come through Jack, and sometimes it does. So I believe that it was in book 6 or book 7. You can see the twist happen, and Bruce and the Joker, when they have to team up, it's usually for a really, really strong reason. And I think that the premise here was really good because the characterization of the Neo Joker, which is like a Harley Quinn wannabe knockoff, is really, really strong because she wants to replicate the legacy of what the Joker was and who the Joker was and what the Joker stood for. So the Joker, in many ways, had to face himself in this story, which made for a really, really fun narrative by Sean Murphy. So if we can get to here, I think I found some textual evidence here. But yeah, we have Jack being more normalized, and when he doesn't have the makeup on, he looks like an ordinary individual. And even Jim Gordon, wrestling fan, even says, that he's not a bad looking guy, like he looks pretty normalized. But then when he needs to become the Joker, we can see it happen here where he's basically at a conference and he has to revert back to get what he needs to get to. So there's almost a story here that the Joker, in order to satisfy and fulfill a need, when he's Jack, needs to sometimes become the Joker to get what he needs to get, which is an unhealthy coping mechanism, obviously. So we can see it right here in this beautiful, beautiful panel. All through here, you can see Jack, and then he's slowly morphing into the Joker. And that's the thing with mental health is no matter how many medications you take, it's not necessarily a cure. And I think that's a big misconception that happens that I think Sean Murphy's actually dissecting here is you can't just take a pill or multiple pills and expect to be cured. Yes, they can help. They can help you intellectually and cognitively, but they don't necessarily always change your identity. And that's something that the Joker goes through here. So there's a bit of an identity crisis too, a bit of a theme of that. And this is all done in literature to show not just a tangible conflict, but an intangible conflict within the psyche of the character. And we can see that through Mr. Freeze as well, Victor. So Victor has a bit of a Nazi background, and he knows the Waynes at a more sentimental level, which is kind of unprecedented in the canon, which is really unique. So you can see too when he's speaking to Barbara Gordon, you can see how Murphy incorporates more themes of nostalgia, which I think works really well. And I think adding Victor into this was a really really strong strong aspect of it. So I'm trying to think of other ways that we can look at this too, because Victor, as we know, is a villain, but he's a more sympathetic villain, almost to the point that he's an anti-hero now. And in this arc, he's really not an enemy to Bruce. But the thing is, when they find, I'm not going to say a cure, but when they find something to help assist in his research and his quest to save Nora, he's right there as an ally. But once there's even a sliver of hope that Nora's going to be revived, he wants to be alone with her. So he'll kick any of these characters out of the room and be like, I need my time with Nora. So that's sticking to the canon that Paul Dini established in Heart of Ice in the Batman the Animated Series. And if you have never seen that episode, Heart of Ice, I highly recommend doing so. I even recommend watching all of Batman the Animated Series, because to me there's not really a bad episode, and even the bad episodes are still good episodes in my opinion. So even the Underdwellers, it's a good episode. It's just a different dynamic. Anyway, like I said, the artwork looks great. But yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff. I like the addition of history incorporated into this, especially through Victor in the Waynes, where we get a little bit of background on the Nazi regime, and we get it through Freeze's point of view, his background, and not his background specifically, but his familial background. So adding that gives a little more layer to these characters and gives them more literary realism, because a lot of times in comics you can really misconstrue reality, and you don't need to always have realism, but you need to be realistic in your prose and realistic in the story that you're telling, even if it does have multi-dimensional dynamics that are a little more scientific, which can sway a lot of people away. But also, if you are educated on things of that nature, books like this will be really beneficial in your own research and your own reading, depending on what you want to do with it. So there was a lot of really good stuff in this, but I do think that the main message that Sean Murphy was trying to tell is, when you battle yourself, it's not just a physical battle, it's more of a mental battle. Because when we're dealing with mental health like the Joker does, you have to figure out what is good and what is bad. And it really shows how simultaneity and ambiguity come into this again, because Jack, he doesn't struggle with what's bad and what's good, but he more wants to create a balance of what good and bad is, according to him, because the Joker in this kind of is more like a crutch to Jack in a way, where it's, like I said earlier, when he needs to get something done, he needs to get it done with being the Joker. However, the support that he has from Harley is a strong one too, because she doesn't really leave his side, even as Jack. But Jack is what you would call a troubled soul, and he's somebody that you can see in society that wants to do good, but there's a lot of proverbial baggage there, and the inability to accept an individual's past, even though the Joker has a really strong past, so that would be kind of hard to ignore, is something that weighs on a lot of people psychologically. And we can see it in Batman the White Knight, where, again, you have the White and Dark Knight complex, but he's not really a white knight. He's trying to be a white knight, but the main question again is, when you have so much darkness in your soul, can the whiteness overtake the darkness, or can the light overtake the dark? And that's something that I think is up to interpretation, and I don't think you always need to have the answer to it. But this almost makes you want to sympathize with Jack in a way, because when we're struggling again with mental health, we can't always control our actions or can't control the way that we feel, and sometimes we got to let the beast or the monster come out inside, because it's almost therapeutic, even though it's a very, very negative connotation to have, and it's very negative in a way that therapy is not supposed to operate, because a lot of times therapy is supposed to be beneficial, but sometimes people need that proverbial fix, and that's what Jack Napier needs. And Jack Napier is on this quest for redemption, but is it really redemption when all you have to do is keep battling yourself and know that the ultimate end is going to be that you're going to revert back to who you are, even though he knows that anyway. So that's a question open for debate. But again, that's from a more ideological and English literature point of view, because I didn't want to give you a review of everything, because I don't want to go through everything, because there are some aspects of this that I don't, not that they're not worth talking about, but they don't really fit into what I want to discuss. So I wanted to look at this more as a characterization of the Joker, because in English literature, characterization is probably the number one thing that you have to look for, because if you don't have suitable characters with good enough motivations, big intentions, and a good end story, then what do you have? So that's why I looked at this from the Joker's point of view, but also Bruce descending into madness at the beginning is really, really intriguing, because Bruce and Jim Gordon now kind of become the villains, even though they're not, but they, in the Joker's mind and in the mind of the Gothamites in the society of Gotham, Jim Gordon and Bruce Wayne become the villains, because the Joker, Jack Napier, also kind of gathers a cult following. And when you get followings like this, they're often temporary, and that's what happens here in the world of Gotham, because I'm gonna call it the world of Gotham, because it almost operates as its own universe. You see how Bruce too has to deal with being interpreted as the villain, and he doesn't take to it very well. Even though he doesn't lose himself, he doesn't take that reputation well, in the public eye and personally. So the characterization was the strongest part of the White Knight. I'm going to read Curse of the White Knight. I'm also going to read Generation Joker, and I'm going to read the Harley Quinn story as well. I have Curse of the White Knight in trade, and I also have Harley Quinn, her story in trade too. I just have to pick up Generation Joker. But I would like to do more reviews on these, or analyses, if you want to call them that. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think I should try and review and analyze next. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, because we are on the road to 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours. And once I hit those 2 milestones, I can bring better content for you going forward. So please hit that subscribe button. Feel free to share it and feel free to interact, and I will see you soon.